You ready?
Oh boy, oh boy.
Hey guys, Robert and Ingrid here,
What
and
the banana split did I just watch?
the worst of the Kong movies. King
Hmm.
Kong Lives, made 10 years afterwards, and good God, does it show. First up, okay,
Hmm.
let's start with the very premise. Kong survived, somehow,
Mm-hmm.
and they decide to save Kong by putting an artificial heart in there. Oh, and it turns out there's a female Kong out there giving them a blood transfusion. They get together, knocks her up, stuff happens. Kong decides to fight them off, and while she's giving birth to their child, he dies. Oh, isn't it sad?
Yeah, I was like,
So much contrivances, so much
I
stupidity,
feel
so much.
like the main thing that kind of got missed here is the whole like division between the joyless reasons stuff happens in a story versus the Watsonian reasons happen to the story in universe versus out of universe. Obviously, at this point, there is a lot of out of universe affection for Kong as a character, and these writers completely forgot to translate that to something that would be believable for the characters in universe to do. The audience might want Kong to live, but they haven't given us any reason for
Why
the
would
people in
they?
the thing. Yeah, why would the people in the story want this to happen? It's
I
just
mean,
like,
okay, in the 10 years that while he was in the coma, I can understand some sympathy building, but why would they keep him alive even that long?
yeah, I'm thinking that there's some point where it's just like, hey, kill him, taxidermy him, and put him in a museum.
Yeah, exactly. Let him die. But it took him because the fact they kept him in that coma for 10 years and decided, let's save him with this heart transplant.
Mm-hmm.
We have Linda Hamilton completely wasted here.
Yeah, she did not deserve to have this movie inflicted on her.
Of course, this was right after Terminator, so.
Yeah.
Look, I'll say this Son of Kong was a logical follow up.
This has no rhyme or reason in universe at all.
None at all. And then you have Lady Kong. Where the hell was this other Kong?
Yeah, where the hell did they
Why did he
manage to
never? And
get
they went
her
to the
from?
and they went to the same island.
How come they didn't find her earlier? This seems like a
Oh
massive
no!
plot
No,
hole.
I take it back. They say here that they went to they went to Borneo, and they basically theorize that Borneo and the island were part of the same landmass.
Ah.
But yeah, then they
Still,
find.
that's not necessarily explained very well in the movie itself, so.
Yep, and then you have the transfusion happen, and Kong and Lady Kong escape, and then time passes, and apparently, and she's knocked up, and apparently the artificial heart wasn't good to begin with.
Because, of course, it wasn't.
Now I will say this: the climax here wasn't bad.
Yeah,
Kong
it
versus the
wasn't bad.
military.
I just I feel like it would have gotten me emotional in a better movie, but here it's just like I'm just thinking about how none of this plot makes
Oh,
sense, and I feel nothing.
exactly. And Baby Kong, oh, that was cringe.
Hmm.
It just looked like a mini adult Kong.
Yeah, no.
And how could you tell how Lady Kong, if she was female, how could you tell?
Yeah. I mean, aside from getting this movie an R rating.
Well, obviously, but again, no. Kong versus the military, fine, but much like Son of Kong, in this case, the titular character dies for good.
Hmm.
What was the point of having him be alive then if he was going to die at the end?
Yeah, no, this is the Shaggy Dog problem, but worse.
Yeah, yeah. What were they going to follow on his son if they made a sequel?
Hmm.
Oh, God Almighty! And the effects weren't anywhere near as good. It wasn't atrocious. I would say
This
that it's still better than the Kong suit from Toho. I'll still say
it
that.
this kind of movie just kind of feels like, oh, cheap nostalgia pandering before the current cheap nostalgia pandering phenomenon.
Son of Kong had an excuse. It was one of the first mega hits, not a blockbuster hit, but mega hits. So they rushed out the sequel. This one had 10 years. 10 years. Were people clamoring for this?
Hmm.
This feels like they rushed it out because they were about to lose the rights.
Yeah, that's probably another raw logical reason for it.
Oh, according to this, listen to this.
There were multiple points during this movie where I had zoned out a little bit, lost track of what was happening, rewound it to see what I missed, and it made just as much sense, which is to say, not very the times I rewound it. If that
Oh, gee.
tells you anything.
You want to know some of the other stories they had? Some of them were going to just be a different Kong, but you have Kong in Russia, Kong in space. They even had one with little kids leading around saying, "Careful, Kong, don't step on that car. It was literally an embarrassment." Basically, they were so desperate for a sequel, it took them years before they finally came up with one. Believe it or not, Dino originally didn't want to do the idea of a female Kong, but he's saying it's hard enough to accept that there's a King Kong. But since he's been around 15 years, he has become a pop culture icon. No one's going to believe a female ape. To which the writer said, Dino, he had to have had a mother. By God, you're right. I never thought of that. There could be a female. What?
Okay, that is what?
Oh, you want to know the worst part? The director of this movie was the director of the first one.
What? How do you mess up that badly?
And I'll say this, Linda Hammond actually says, I'm happy that I don't have to get picked up by the monkey and become the object of his desire. I saved Kong, and it's nice to play someone who is not hysterical and dramatic and intense all the time. I'll give her that!
I'll definitely give her that.
I will give her that. As far as the female leads, while she was wasted here, she was handled better than most.
Yeah.
But seriously, how did the director go from the first one to this one?
Like I said, I think it's a case of they got mixed up with the in-universe reasons why characters do things versus the
especially that whole bit, like he had a mother
making it.
He had a mother. By God, you're right. Like what?
I mean, the son of Kong had to have a mom too.
We never saw that. We never saw her.
It's like, yeah, you're a very obvious blind spots are showing here, writers.
Yeah. Oh God, this movie.
I might go make myself an actual banana split to forget it.
Oh, and apparently the guy who wrote this, a lot of his movies were never that good going forward.
Yeah, no, I'm not surprised.
Yeah, I mean, at least the other writer, he's the one who did was Ronald Schuss, the guy who wrote the original story for Alien. He worked on Alien versus Predator story-wise, anyway. He
some nice credentials there.
Yep, he worked on Total Recall. But the original one. So the other writer knew what he was doing.
Indeed, and that's probably where most of the good stuff came from then.
Yeah, but again, this was horrible.
Not as bad as Gamera's Super Monster, but probably closer to Godzilla's Revenge.
Definitely. Where would this compare to? I would say it was still more entertaining than Rebirth of Mothra 2.
Yes, more entertaining than Rebirth of Mothra 2, but that's not saying much.
Exactly, but Godzilla's Revenge had a bit more heart to it.
Yeah, it did have a bit more heart, especially once you know the context behind the creator of it. This one just felt like an directionless mess.
Okay, going forward, it's going to be a bunch of just revisiting of other stuff we've gone over.
Mostly because I'd like to forget the movie I just watched, thank you.
Exactly. So next time we'll be back talking about Peter Jackson's Kong again. Again, very briefly, but we'll see you then.